Welcome to the thrilling world of Security Squawk, where we explore cybersecurity. Guiding you through online threats, we'll aid you in understanding safety protocols and trends. Meet our gurus, Bryan from Exact IT, Reginald from Arc Solvers, and Randy from Tech Rescue. Together, we'll delve into current events and hot cybersecurity topics, helping you comprehend their impact. Stay informed, stay secure. Security Squawk, the business of cybersecurity. Buckle up, let's dive in.
Checker. Can you hear me? Randy? You got me? 1, 2, 1, 2. All right, sounds good. So here we go. Welcome to the Security Squawk podcast, the business of cybersecurity. I'm Bryan Hornung here with Reginald Andre and Randy. Bryan, what's up, gentlemen? How are you this week?
Hey, doing good. I'm now finished my summer traveling and now at my permanent location. So it feels good to
Oh, wow.
All right.
have a normal chair and not working out of someone's kitchen.
Interesting.
Nice.
All right. So doing good, Randy?
Yes, sir.
All right. So this week, guys, we got 3 pretty exciting topics to hit everybody with. We got a small Oklahoma City hit by ransomware that Andre is going to talk about. And Randy, you're going to take us inside the phone call that fooled Levi Strauss, the G maker. Man, they've been around for they have to be over 100 years old, I guess, right? At some point.
More than.
So we'll get into that. And then I'm going to close with a LockBit return, the group that the government said they took down. And they hit a defense parts maker that you've never heard of, but we're going to get into why that matters for compliance and CMMC, as it's a warning for every business out there. So, Andre, you're going to kick us off. The city of Coweta hit with a system-wide ransomware attack. Coweta is in Oklahoma, and on August 5th, ransomware locked every city computer system. About 10,000 people outside of Tulsa. What's going on here, Mr. Andre?
Yes, so City of Coweta on August the 5th, they had a ransomware attack. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this one is because I want to kind of give kudos to them for a few reasons. So the first thing is they did have an attack where a lot of their services stopped working, such as their, the management of the office, the water department, for example, those computers, those stopped working. However, they did still have their 911 emergency services and just their police department. So a lot of times we hear where once a city goes down, everything stops working. And in this case, we see that they had at least some type of segmentation where even though, let's just say, the main administration city hall system stopped working, the other essential services continue to work. They also said that they were using a third-party company for all of their credit card and debit card payment systems for like water bills, or if you're trying to maybe look up a payment, do a permit or something, and you have to pay. And they're saying that that was on an off-site third-party cloud system, and they're not, and those were not affected. Now, another interesting thing is that they did get a message to say, "Hey, city, pay us, and we'll go ahead and give you back your data and give you access to your account." And they said, "Nope, we are not going to pay you, Mr. Bad Guy. We are just going to go ahead and restore from backups. We verified that we have the backups." So at least we see that there was some type of plan here. The first thing is kudos that they had some sort of segmentation, and then they have their backups, and they're not going to pay their ransom. So we always say it, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and do you have a plan, and do you know what you're going to do, and are you going to stick to your guns when it happens? And it seems like they are going to do this.
And this is always tough when this happens, because when government's involved, there's services involved. And so you get a delay because services go down, and you get a delay for like permitting, or you get a delay for like people opening up their utilities for the first time or turning off their utilities. there's all kinds of hassles that something like this causes, and it's never fun to see it when a city gets locked up like this. What's the prognosis now, Andre? Them getting back online.
Yeah, they said in the, what's that?
It's actually pretty good.
Yeah, yeah.
You want to expand on that or no?
Oh no, I didn't. I cut you off, so I was gonna let you go.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Oh no, like you said, it's pretty good. They said that they have a backup and they're already in the process of restoring the data. Now keep in mind it was a ransomware attack, so that doesn't. Who knows now if the bad guy has the information of the residents? So there may be another follow up to this where they're going to say yes, there was an attack and we're sorry, but if you turned in an application or you put in some type of information with the city, or if we have some of your information, there may be a possibility that your name, your email address, and all of that PII information is out there.
Did you say, did they know how they got in?
No, it doesn't say.
So probably, if they're just restoring, that's a bad sign if they don't know how they got in, because if you don't know how they got in, how are you going to keep them out when they're going to get right back in most likely. So we'll see how that happens. We probably need to keep our eye on this one.
Yep. Labor Day, we're going to get an update. Typically, that's when
You got a holiday coming. Yeah.
Yep.
Time to roll out those updates.
So Andre does celebrate the fact that it's not a complete disaster, meaning like some city services can still happen. But, paying for things like water, sewer, getting building permits, I mean, those are going to be the inconveniences of what people have to deal with, right? So, if your taxes are due, if your water bill's due, that's all going to get delayed. The thing that I see with these attacks when they happen, guys, is like these systems are like, I guess I want to say archaic because they are archaic. They have no ability to like if you don't pay your taxes in these systems, you didn't pay your taxes. And it's like almost like they got to make the earth move to undo that or get that undone. And so, it's really annoying from that standpoint, like that people are probably going to get notices in the mail saying that their taxes weren't paid or their water wasn't paid or their sewer wasn't paid, to the point where you might get shut off notices and stuff like that. So you just have to be aware that stuff could come as a result of this. People who do real estate investing, house flipping, they get impacted a lot by this stuff. That's like the last thing that comes back online when this kind of stuff happens. So, it's annoying. Real estate transactions will get held up, stuff like that. And, for an individual in the moment, you want your transaction, you want your house to sell, you want to move, right? And unfortunately, something like this can put a delay on that for a week, a month. We've seen it, and it gets annoying. I know a town up in Long Island, New York, that they got hit with ransomware, and it was 3 or 4 months before they could do building permits and stuff like that again.
Yep.
So you have to understand this could impact your business in these small towns. House flippers, construction guys, real estate agents, these things can be impacted. And that's why we talk about, third-party risk and being resilient and understanding that these little things can happen and impact your business, your life as well. So just be aware of all that stuff, because that's what really impacts most people when they say, oh, this town got hit, the police and fire and 911's okay, but everything else is down. These are the things you typically see. So any last thoughts before we move on there, guys?
No, we're good.
Oh, good. All right. So the city of Coweta got locked out by software. The next one didn't need software at all, guys. The attackers just, pick up the phone. And Randy, let us know how Levi Strauss got hit here.
Yeah, so they had to. We found out about this through a filing with the Security and Exchange Commission, and basically through that filing and through some digging around, it looks like a group who's not been named yet called employees at Levi Strauss,
Taking
and here's
bets.
what they're
I'm
doing.
taking bets.
Yeah, they're reaching out. Well, yeah, they're reaching out and they basically reach out directly to the employee and they're like, hey, this is the IT department. We're trying to make you more secure. Everybody talks about being secure. You want to be more secure, right? Well, we're going to send you a link to reset your MFA. And so that they send over a link, the employee clicks on it, then boom, the bad guys are into whatever system that they're trying to get into. So, like I said, we don't know who the group is that did this. They did it to 3 employees. They were able to take out corporate data. The exchange filing says that there's no customer data yet. We'll have to keep our eyes on it to see if that's true or not. But it looks like we don't know yet as far as that part goes. It looks like they were able to steal corporate data by doing that. So we don't know the organization, like I said, but there's been a big awareness of a group called UNC 6671. They've not claimed responsibility for this, but they were able to be very successful earlier in the year. $10+ million for sure they got from companies, which I know in the big picture is kind of a drop in the bucket. Supposedly they retired in May, but that retirement lasted like 5 minutes, it appears. So we do have some signs pointing to that it's that particular group, but we don't know for sure. We've also got a lot of history with a group called Shiny Hunters that we've mentioned several times on this podcast, doing the similar kind of thing. So if I was going to bet, I'd probably bet on one of those. Brian, you probably bet on Shiny Hunters. I'll bet on UNC 6671, and we'll see if it's either one of those. And this really brings up an important thing. This has happened over and over in 2026. We've been talking to our employees about you got to be secure, and a lot of them are running scared basically, and they're aware of that, where they get a call from a total stranger claiming to be the IT, and they're willing to click on things and give away their MFA. So it's a very scary position that we're in, and we need to make sure that we are training employees to not fall for this, because they're falling for it left and right. Would love to hear what you guys think about this particular breach.
I mean, this is go ahead, Brian.
So the Google's been tracking activity under multiple threat clusters: 6661, 6671, and 6240. 6240 is Shiny Hunters. So there's 3 groups, and they don't know if these are different groups. It could be Shiny Hunters. All 3 of those numbers could be Shiny Hunters. So we don't know who it is. We just know that those 3 groups are very successful at it. So yeah, we'll let you know. But definitely is that group. We just don't know if that group is part of Shiny Hunters or not. Go ahead, Andre.
Yeah, so a few things on this. So first is we've been teaching employees and staff members, hey, watch out for that CEO email, right? The CEO is never going to ask you to go to Walgreens and get a gift card or something like that. But now we need to change that that topic and say, look, it's not only if the CEO does a suspicious call or email, but it's the IT department, it's the bank, it's vendors, it's all of these things where you have to be careful. And I think also the article talked about, how they contacted them. They contacted them on their cell phone, which also puts like for me, if someone's calling me on my cell phone, first, if you're not in my contacts, it's going straight to voicemail. But I think also if a user is getting a call on their cell phone, I think their tolerance of is this a scam is maybe a little lower, because if they're getting an email, there could be some notification to say you normally don't get emails from this person. But with the cell phone, I think their guards are going to be down a little. Oh, this is IT support. We need to do something real quick. Let me get into your computer. So that's the second thing. So again, at the end of the day, security awareness training for your employees and teaching them, hey, not only is it can come from the CEO, but it can be from other people. And I googled Levi is a 6.5 billion dollar annual year revenue. Think about how big their cybersecurity department is, right? And how much they spend on cybersecurity. And three phone calls to employees, and they were able to take down. Not that the company stopped is out of operation, but they were able to break into this company with what, at least 10 million. You would think that they're spending on cyber. So it's just interesting to see, like, they're probably doing all of this, and their IT guys are like, oh my gosh, we have all of these protections, and you know, Bob let these people in just like that. So I'm sure it's very frustrating as well.
Not going to talk, Randy? Are you, no? You're, you're muted?
I am sorry, guys. Honestly, it's I can't even think of the word how disturbing that this is. Anyway, we got to keep our eye on this, and we got to learn not to fall for these things.
Yeah, it's crazy because they just take over, and that's what companies, and I've been harping on that for years. I mean, to see the breadth and depth of what they did here, attackers, jumping in and, just getting ugly here on, registering their own devices, kicking out the real ones. Like, it's just crazy stuff to see what's going on when these attackers get inside these systems, right? So, be interesting to see where this goes and how this plays out long term for this company, because it's not going to play out well. So, I guess one thing, what are you guys telling your customers to do around this stuff? Because we're telling our customers, the strongest defense on this stuff is a callback rule, meaning that your IT should have an unpublished number that your employees can call that no one knows, right? And that's kind of like the idea here. And if somebody from the outside starts calling in on that number, you got to flag that as some kind of a breach or a break in protocol. So the only people that should have that number and that should be calling in on that number are the employees of your company calling in for IT support. If you're an MSP, your clients are calling in on that, or their employees are calling in on that for support. But it's really important that you monitor that for this exact reason, right? So somebody calls in randomly on that, you may need to change that number, or you may need to go through some protocol to make sure that people who are calling in are actually who they say they are while you're in the process of changing that number. So that's thing one, because that, if you protect that, then you can tell your employees, like, hey, if you get a random phone call, if you get some kind of interaction that seems abnormal to what our normal support channels are, the safest rule of thumb is you hang up, you call this number, and then you speak to somebody who picks up on that line and tell them what's going on. And then they'll tell you, yeah, that was actually us, or that was not us. And we need to figure out who's trying to scam you and make sure that our guard's up. And also let the rest of the company know that this is happening to an employee or several employees in the company, so they can be aware and vigilant when something may come their way. So what are you guys doing at your companies with your clients, things like that, around this stuff?
Yeah, so we use a system where the client knows that when we talk to them, we always have to verify who they are. So if they're getting a phone call
Right, but
and
in the case of it's not your team, right?
Hmm.
It's not a matter of what your team does. It's a matter of what your clients do, right? So your clients get this phone call. That's not you on the end of the line. What are you telling them to do, right? We're telling them to hang up the phone and call a certain phone number, right? Which then will kick in that verification process
I
you're
see.
talking about, right? So
Right.
that's like, when in doubt, if you're suspicious, what is the protocol, right? And a lot of companies don't talk about that, right? Or don't tell them, like, hey, if you're not feeling like this interaction with an IT support person is legit, here's what you're supposed to do. Whereas if you don't even put that thought in people's heads that, yeah, you could get scammed this way, they're going to take every call from IT as like, okay, this must be IT. They're going to
Hmm.
err on the side of like, oh, I don't know, so this must be them, instead of, oh, wait a minute, this might not be them, so I got to call this number now, right? And that's what you
It's
want going through their heads.
yeah, and it's really a tweak of what we've been saying
Right.
all along. I would say at least for the last few years. When you have something incoming that requires this, that's the whole idea. Don't, like, if it's an email, don't call back on the number that's in the email, but pick up your, your contact list or whatever it is. For us, our internal documentation, and if it's a customer, it might be what's the number saved on their phone. Call back the number that you already have, or go get the actual number off of the internet. So someone claims to be your bank, you don't just go, oh yeah, and give away the farm. You go and get your bank's number off of the internet. You call them back and say, I got a call from you guys. What's this about? Same thing with your IT company. They call you, they're trying to do something, they email you, they're trying to do something that you didn't initiate. Then look up the actual number, have a number saved, whatever that is, and call them back. The the one little thing there and all of that that's a little scary, Bryan, is if the bad guys are in the middle of that communication somehow. If they're already in your customer, listening to that back and forth communication, or already in the MSP, listening to that conversation going back and forth, that's going to make it a little more difficult. But bottom line, that's a great thing to always do, to
Yeah.
verify those kind of things.
Yeah, and that's why I say you got to monitor and treat that number like, if you're an MSP or you're an IT, like, number one, a company's IT department's number shouldn't be published on the internet. If you're an MSP, in my opinion, what you put on your website, there should be another number that you're giving to people for this purpose that is not published, right? It's almost like the kind of emergency line of like, hey, we want to make sure we're talking to the person we're talking to, right? We think we're talking to, type of thing. That's how I would recommend that you do it. And again, if it falls, you got to take it seriously with that number. If somebody starts calling it that's not on your roster, you got to do something there. You got to change the number. You got to, that's what I would recommend you do. That's your easiest option. Just change the number, and you got to get that distributed out, or and communicate it to you, because you can't just forward it, right? No, you can change it and forward it, because whoever has the number is going to keep calling it and forward it to the new number. So, yeah, but you got to take this stuff seriously, and these are ways that you can combat this kind of stuff that's happening right now, which is phishing or these Teams calls, things like that, right? So, pay attention to this stuff. These guys are using it. It's very successful. We're seeing companies get hit left and right through this method. Again, they're going to look for new methods. If phishing's working less, these other scams that they're using are working less. Stuff isn't getting through email. And there's a lot of reasons for that. People aren't checking email as much. AI is checking email for people. So the success of getting into companies' networks through a phishing email is getting harder and harder for these guys. So they're pivoting to these new types of attacks through Teams and phone calls and things like that. So be aware, have plans, train your team, let them know this stuff's happening, and you'll probably be okay, right? Because look, we're gonna move on here, but the stories we have, like ransomware, Andre's story, that's a story we talked about, and you can survive it, right? So, um, you know, this story with Levi Strauss, right? You know, you can survive these things, these call-ins, stuff like that, right? So, LockBit's back, by, guys, and we want to talk about groups that survive, right? So, somehow this group hit a company in the defense space called Microphase, threw them out on their leak site. They're calling themselves LockBit 5.0. So law enforcement, if you didn't know, broke this group up in 2024, and now they're back in 2026, calling themselves version 5.0 and a fresh list of victims. So why this matters and why I'm pointing out that this group, used to be very prolific, and now they were taken down and now they're back, because here's an example of a group that was supposedly taken down by our FBI and other law enforcement. And sometimes even the big guys take these groups down, and it's just a speed bump. And it's not the end. They take down a few key people, but then they reorganize, they tool up. So you can never assume that these threats are gone just because the government had a big press conference and put out a press release saying that they took down these groups. So LockBit, guys, if you don't recall, they were one of the first groups to do the double extortion game, right? So that means they don't just lock your files, they steal your data, and then they threaten to publish it on the dark web if you don't pay. So as we talked about, right, Andre's story, they had backups. So that will help you get your systems back up and running, but it doesn't unsteal your data. And that's the big thing with these groups. If you care about data, or the data that you're trusted with getting released to other cyber criminals, then you need to be worried about these guys, because if you don't protect it, they'll steal it, and then they don't care about your ability to restore it. They'll use that as extortion, the threat of releasing that data, and whether that's your own embarrassment, whether that's a regulatory or compliance issue you have to deal with. These guys figure that out, and then they exploit it and extort you for what you didn't do, which was protect that data. So let me give you a little bit more about this, guys, and I'll let you chime in. But since relaunching last year, LockBit has listed more than 200 victims, everyone from Fortune 500 names to specialty parts makers. And companies people never heard of for the most part, right? We talk about it on the show all the time, right? You're never too small, you're just too small to make the news. And LockBit has been going back at it for the last year, and nobody's really heard about it until now. So they're still running the same playbook. They're renting their tools to affiliates. So they let other people break into their networks, and then they come in and they do the dirty work of ransomware and stealing the data. So they seem in their comeback to be targeting VMware more frequently than anything. And why that matters is because they must like the fact that one hit of a company can encrypt pretty much every virtual machine, server, desktop at once. So it's a quick way to take down a lot of things at once, and that's what this group seems to like to operate around. So that's it, guys. LockBit 5.0 is back. I want to bring you in and get your thoughts on the havoc that's to come from this group.
Yeah, so I'm also concerned about who LockBit actually hacked, because Googling Microphase, they provide components for Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, L3 Harris. So this is actually a really big deal, and we know, like you've been saying, LockBit has caused a lot of harm in the past. So whatever they're going to do with this information, with all the things already happening in the world, this is pretty scary. And especially, I guess, and Brian, you can talk more about it with the delays in kicking the can, so to speak, of the government and the requirements and compliance for these type of companies. So this doesn't help either, I'm sure.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if we're reading things in the news in, I don't know, a year or so from now when the Department of Justice decides to, conclude their investigation that this organization wasn't following the rules that the Department of Defense has put forward around cybersecurity and keeping things protected. Um, Unfortunately for defense contractors, when these things happen, that's when these investigations kind of start to happen, right? And we find out another defense contractor wasn't doing what they were supposed to do. That's part of their contract that they get paid for in that contract, right? So don't want to get too deep into CMMC and what goes on there, but at the end of the day, this is an organization that we're probably going to hear about in about 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 months from now, that the government is investigating them because they're convinced at some point through this investigation that they were not protecting CUI, controlled unclassified information, like they should have. And that's how this plays out for most defense contractors, right? They get hit, they have a problem, the government has to investigate, find out what was taken, what was touched, and in that process, they'll figure out that they weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing.
Yeah, so I did a little research on LockBit, and man, it sounds like they got out their chat GPT or their bad GPT, whatever you want to call it, and just dreamed up a whole new version 5.0, if you will, because not only is their software that they're rolling out better, targeting Windows, Linux, VMware. I'm looking at some of the things it does for obfuscation and stealth, crazy stuff. Also, faster encryption. And then at the end of the day, they're giving more money to their affiliates as well, which is probably going to mean that the organization will grow even faster. But reading through their list of goodies, if you will, it sounds like they dreamed it up with a chat GPT of some sort. Obviously, it'd have to be a bad GPT or it wouldn't have gone along with it. But all the things that they're doing now, they're coming back with a vengeance, is what it appears to be.
Hey, LockBit is the OG, and now they're like, what? They were in prison. Think of like someone in prison for like a long time, and now they came back, and they're like, wow, well, we can use ChatGPT for this. Oh man, it's on now.
Yep. So, groups like LockBit hitting 40-person parts shops, right? They don't know that they're CMMC. They don't know that they have all this stuff. That just makes it better when they figure out what they have, at the end of the day, right? But, if you're an owner who thinks they're not a target, you got a 20, 30-person company and you're just like, nobody's going to bother with us. They go after the big guys like Lockheed. No, they don't, right? So just take heed as to what happens here, who got hit. And again, they don't know who they hit before they hit it. They just find an address on the street and they attack. And then once they get in, they figure out what they have. So they're not really looking at it from they're too small, we're not going to hit them. No, they hit you and then they get in and go, oh, well, they're too small, we're not going to do ransomware, but maybe we'll do this or that. Or maybe we'll try to break into their email and then get to somebody bigger through them, right? Or mass email a bunch of their contacts and hope we can get maybe 5 or 6 other companies to click on stuff and break into their networks in the process. These are the things that play out, right, when small companies get hit. But in most cases, they still do get ransomware, right? So, all right, guys, let's talk about it, right? Let's wrap up this show. Patterns clear. Kawita survived because choices made before the attack. They're able to at least consider backups to recover, so that's always a good thing, right? Segmented systems help the blast radius be reduced. These are the things we talk about on the show all the time, where we say these are the things that should be done that typically aren't. We see them starting to be done. That is definitely encouraging stuff, guys, for sure. So, Levi Strauss got hurt through the moment of a misplaced trust, and LockBit proves attackers will come back whether you're a household name or a parts shop. So none of this gets decided in the moment. That's the important thing, right? The attackers might decide who they're going to hit in the moment, but your defense doesn't get decided in the moment. It gets decided in years and months of protection. Some of that's starting to play through for companies, as you've heard on the show today. But even though they were able to get through some of this, it doesn't mean that they were fully cyber resilient, right? So it takes a lot to be fully cyber resilient. Follow a framework, implement them. It's important. But remember, all this stuff gets decided in advance. And the more in advance you decide and then execute, the better chance you're going to have to reduce that blast radius. So every breach is won or lost before it begins. And if this information was useful to you, you can always head over to our website, securitysquawk.com. You can support the show from there. And no matter what platform you're watching this or listening to this from, you can always subscribe and leave us a comment or a review. All that stuff helps other people find this content. It's how more owners like you, more business people, more people interested in cyber defense find the show. So thanks to Randy and Andre, my co-hosts, for jumping in and sharing their thoughts and ideas around cyber protection this week. We'll see everyone next week. Take care. Stay safe.